Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more. The first time I dressed in a gown was when I was 8, at a Halloween bash, dressed as Little Bo Peep. At the time, I was just a child, but something clicked inside me when I put it on. I enjoyed it more than expected, even wearing it for nearly a whole week after the party until Mom intervened. When I was 12, I dressed as Snow White, and again, there was a similar sensation as Mom styled my hair and applied makeup. Although I couldn't pinpoint it then, I felt a strong inclination towards dressing femininely. I didn't vocalize these feelings, I simply attended the party and had a good time. Yet, I knew deep down that I would dress up again, and it wouldn't necessarily be tied to Halloween. It took almost 3 months before I had another opportunity, and I seized it promptly. I borrowed a skirt and blouse from my sister, attempting my best despite the outcome being less than ideal. Yet, the satisfaction outweighed the fear of getting caught. Though it lasted only an hour, it felt like an eternity. However, donning those clothes brought immense relaxation, prompting a desire for a repeat experience, which I indulged in. With each daring act, dressing up became more frequent, evolving into an addiction. Those stolen moments of dressing up and prancing around became irresistible. The more I dressed, the greater the craving became, leading to peculiar thoughts like venturing out of my room in feminine attire. I suppressed such notions with logic, choosing caution over compulsion, and confined my activities to my room. My sister, Cara, being 5 years my senior, hoarded clothing she no longer wore or had outgrown, presenting me with ample options. Assuming she wouldn't notice a few missing items, I helped myself to an old bra, a slip, a couple of skirts, several blouses, and 3 pairs of her shoes that fit me perfectly. However, I hadn't devised a plan for concealing them, resorting to stuffing everything into a box under my bed. Quite foolish in hindsight. This went on until I was 14, and by that time, I thought I had mastered the art of makeup. I had let my hair grow out, pierced my ears, and felt confident that if I showed up dressed as a girl, nobody would ever know who I was. In my delusional state I almost did that, show myself that is, but I got a serious case of the brain cramps, and chickened out. A month later, again fully dressed, I was in my room, trying to find a fault with the way I looked, but couldn't find a one of course, and almost stepped out of my room, but didn't, when an overwhelming fear gripped me yet once again. Then, as I was taking the dress off, the door to my room opened, and Mom walked in on me. Standing there in a bra, panties, and pantyhose, wearing full makeup, with my hair in a ponytail and earrings dangling from my ears, there wasn't much I could say about the way I was dressed, since Mom could see for herself what I had been doing. I didn't need to tell her. I expected a tirade, and stood there waiting for her to dump on me, but, "You better get cleaned up, honey, it's almost dinner time." Then she left. I stripped all of the clothes off as fast as I could, then jumped in the shower to scrub away all traces of makeup. I quickly stowed away my belongings, changed into jeans and a t-shirt, then headed downstairs for dinner. Mom didn't acknowledge what she had witnessed, which left me on edge throughout the meal, anticipating any comment from her. However, she remained silent, and life resumed its normal course within days. Over the following months, Cara graduated, turned 18, and departed with her boyfriend to unknown destinations. About a month after Cara's departure, Dad suffered a heart attack followed by a severe stroke, rendering him completely immobile. Reluctantly, we had to place him in a nursing home. It was a devastating turn of events for a man only 37 years old, and our once orderly lives spiraled into chaos within a few months, leaving Mom and me as the only occupants of our vast old house. The situation became unbearable as we struggled to come to terms with our newfound reality. After witnessing my father's incapacitation, my inclination towards cross-dressing seemed trivial, overshadowed by concern for my dad. It became evident that we couldn't continue living in that house, so Mom put it up for sale. It was purchased within 5 days, giving us only a few months to find a new place to call home. While we tidied up the house and prepared for the move, We discarded a plethora of miscellaneous items, the typical accumulation found in any family home. When we reached Kara's room, I half expected Mom to dispose of her clothes or donate them. To my surprise, she meticulously packed them into boxes and left them untouched in the room. I didn't inquire about her decision, I was simply relieved she chose to keep them. Relocating to a smaller, newer residence across town meant leaving behind my classmates. As the final truck departed, Mom and I drove to our new home to oversee the unpacking. Mom allocated the largest bedroom to me, and during the unpacking process, she had Kara's belongings transferred into my new room. However, the real shock came when Mom placed Kara's vanity and a few other items in my bedroom. Though I sensed something was amiss, I refrained from asking, partly out of fear of the answer. It took both of us nearly a week to arrange the new house to our satisfaction. In a moment of naivete, I questioned why Kara's possessions were in my room. "So you can use them, of course," Mom replied dismissively. "What a nonsensical question, but I don't need. If you continue dressing as you have been, you'll likely need everything. Just leave them there, and if you ever require them, they'll be available. Otherwise, you can disregard them." I didn't exactly require all of Kara's leftover belongings. Sure, I enjoyed dressing up occasionally, and I longed to venture out as a girl. Even though Mom was aware of my feelings, I remained uncertain about her decision to give me Kara's things. Yet, Mom wouldn't have bestowed them upon me if she didn't possess more insight than I did, so I refrained from dwelling on my unexpected windfall. While unpacking, she subtly expressed her desire to witness me dressed up, but I hesitated to reveal just how feminine I could be, at least in my own perception. Towards the end of the second week in our new home, Mom casually reiterated her wish to meet the girl I had always hidden away. And, by some stroke of luck, she caught me contemplating just that, dressing up, that is. I remained silent, pondering my next move, while her eyes gleamed with warmth and anticipation. "Why don't you go change?" Mom suggested, her voice gentle yet encouraging. "I'll be right here." I stared at her in disbelief. "Go ahead, sweetheart. We're not going anywhere. It's just you and me, and I genuinely want to see for myself how you look when you're not paralyzed with fear." It wasn't even close. I gave in almost before the words were out of her mouth, and went to my room, hoping to do my very best attempt ever. It took me over an hour to shower, do my makeup and get dressed, choosing a short blue skirt with a pale green blouse to wear. My legs looked sexy as all get out wrapped in pantyhose, and looked even better when I stepped into the low white heels. Earrings and a bit of lipstick. Then, when I thought I was ready, I looked in the mirror one last time. This time, I knew that I would have to show Mom how I looked, and hoped that she would not laugh at me. Drawing in a deep breath, I stepped out of my room, and took the first step towards the family room. My feet felt like clay, my tongue was dry and I was sweating, yet I went on, resisting the urge to hide in my room, change as quickly as possible, and deny, once again, the lure I felt when I saw those dresses in my closet. I saw Mom before she saw me, then, with one more step, she looked up, and I froze in place. Mom didn't say anything at first, then she motioned for me to turn around. When our eyes met again, she was smiling. "You look very nice, dear. Maybe, with a little help here and there, you'll look fantastic. This is a skill that might come in handy someday. Being able to become a girl, I mean." I had no idea what she meant and let it pass. "How would you like me to help you? Maybe we can fix up your makeup, then I'll try do your hair a little better, and maybe we can find a better color combination for you." I trailed behind Mom into my bedroom, where she instructed me to remove all the makeup. Then, I sat at the vanity and observed as Mom guided me through the proper makeup application techniques. In less than 20 minutes, she transformed my appearance, surpassing any previous attempts I had made on my own. I was elated to discover how effortless it seemed. After brushing out my freshly washed hair, Mom skillfully used the curling iron to create subtle waves, effortlessly altering my look. Gone was the harshness of a tight ponytail. Instead, my face appeared softer. Her makeup application imparted an innocent charm that I had struggled to achieve independently. As I gazed at my reflection, Mom stepped back, allowing me to marvel at the transformation. The green blouse was swapped for a delicate white top, and as I admired myself once more in the mirror, a smile crept onto my lips. Despite my previous confidence in my abilities, Mom's assistance highlighted my lack of knowledge in feminine grooming. I stood there, overwhelmed by a rush of emotions, hesitant to change out of my clothes, yet too apprehensive to ask Mom if I could remain dressed. Instead, she casually mentioned running a few errands, then handed me an old purse, instructing me to gather my belongings and meet her in the kitchen. Me, venturing out of the house like this. It was both a dream and a nightmare rolled into one. Eventually, I gathered my wallet and lipstick, mustered the courage to join Mom in the kitchen where she awaited. Without a word, she led the way to the car, waiting patiently as I nervously took the first step. I giggled nervously as I hurried to the car, almost hiding beneath the dashboard as she backed out of the driveway. Mom encouraged me to sit up straight, but I remained on edge throughout the errands to the dry cleaners, post office, and drugstore. Despite my reluctance, Mom insisted I accompany her inside the drugstore, where I felt exposed standing in front of the cosmetics aisle, convinced that everyone could see through me, though in reality, nobody paid much attention. I was trembling by the time we returned to the car. On the journey home, my worst fear materialized. We were stopped by the police. I was certain that someone had spotted me in a dress and reported it, but when Mom rolled down her window and the officer glanced at me, he inquired if she knew Cara. "Yes, she's my daughter. Why?" she responded. Your daughter is in jail and has been requesting to contact you. We tried calling your home, but the phone was disconnected. I managed to locate you by checking your license plate, just in case. Can you come see your daughter? She's in serious trouble. We'll follow you, if you don't mind, Mom replied, much to my ongoing dismay. The officer nodded in agreement, and Mom trailed behind him. Along the way, "Mom, are you out of your mind? I'm dressed as a girl. They'll arrest me." "Oh, I highly doubt that. You look absolutely lovely as a girl, and as long as you act accordingly, nobody will suspect a thing. Besides, this is about Cara, not you. But we do need a name for you, a girl's name. Alex doesn't quite fit, does it?" "I don't have one, Mom." "Then I'll choose for you. How about Tina?" "No." "Mary?" "No, scratch that. I've got it. We'll go with Abby." And that's how I became Abby, on the way to the jail. As we entered the police station, I noticed it was bustling with various individuals. Cara's lawyer awaited us, pointed out by the officer. "Your daughter is in very serious trouble," her lawyer stated. "She and her boyfriend robbed a bank this morning, and unfortunately, one of the guards was killed. He managed to escape, leaving her behind with the murder weapon in her hand. Despite this, she refuses to accept that he betrayed her and is convinced he'll surrender and confess. I've attempted to persuade her to cooperate with the police, but she's adamant, refusing to disclose his whereabouts. Frankly, I believe any information she might have is of little value now, but it's worth attempting to persuade her to assist them regardless. After all, if he abandoned her with the gun, why would she expect him to come to her rescue? Perhaps you two can reason with her. I seem to have reached an impasse." While Mom went to speak with Cara, I remained with the lawyer, desperately hoping to slip away unnoticed. Mom returned after about an hour. Cara still clings to the belief that her boyfriend will come to her rescue, but she's starting to grasp the reality of the situation, I believe. With time, she may develop a different perspective. What are her prospects if she decides to cooperate? "Not promising," the lawyer replied. "Murdering a police officer, even if off-duty, as the guard was, is considered capital murder in this state, carrying the death penalty. She was present during the robbery, actively participated, and was apprehended with the weapon in her possession. In my estimation, the only chance to avoid the death penalty is for her to collaborate. Even then, she'll likely face a lengthy prison sentence, quite possibly life without parole." Turning to me, He added, "Would you like to speak with your sister?" I hesitated, but Mom insisted, urging me to speak candidly with Kara. Despite my fear, a female guard escorted me to a small room, where I sat across from Kara. She appeared utterly despondent, and the orange coveralls accentuated her dejected demeanor, making her resemble a pumpkin. Initially, she seemed unaware of my presence, but then she smiled and took a seat. "You've changed," she remarked. "And I think it's for the better." "Kara," I began urgently, "you have to cooperate. The lawyer mentioned the possibility of the death penalty, but, what should I call you now?" she inquired, disregarding my plea for cooperation. "Abby." "Abby, that's a lovely name. It suits you," she remarked before swiftly changing the subject. "Jason swore he'd never abandon me. He promised we'd always be together, that he loved me." "Yeah, maybe," I retorted with disdain. "But he's out there, and you're in here taking the fall for him. How naive can you be, Kara? He's fully aware he faces the death penalty, so why would he surrender? I doubt you'll ever see him again, unless it's his face plastered on television or in the newspapers. Kara, don't be so foolish. He left you in the lurch, and you still believe he loves you? How gullible can you be? That scoundrel is long gone, and unless you want to face lethal injection, you need to spill everything to the police, and you need to do it now." With a resigned sigh, she straightened up. "You look absolutely adorable, Abby. Don't let reality hinder your dreams, honey." I did, and look where it got me. If you want to embrace your femininity, go for it, and don't tolerate any nonsense from anyone, understood? I nodded, then proceeded to recount all the details about Dad's condition, concluding just as a guard entered and informed me of my impending departure. The lingering scent of disinfectant still assaulted my senses, and the grey walls felt increasingly oppressive, so I was relieved to escape that environment. My heart ached for Kara. Her fate was sealed, prison was inevitable. The only uncertainty lay in the duration of her sentence. Throughout her life, she had gravitated toward questionable companions, much to the concern of Mom and Dad. It seemed as though the allure of danger held a peculiar fascination for her. Then she chose Jason. He was the epitome of trouble, yet she disregarded all warnings and followed him. I was fairly certain she had no inkling of Jason's plans to rob the bank, and she certainly wasn't responsible for the guard's death. However, her presence and inaction during the crime rendered her complicit. Our family's misfortune seemed unending, and there was nothing Mom or I could do to alter its course. Witnessing Kara in such circumstances, following Dad's plight, reiterated the insignificance of my own gender expression. Shamefully, it provided me with a sense of solace. That night, our home was unusually quiet. I remained dressed until bedtime, lying awake pondering what further calamities awaited us. The next morning, as Mom and I sat at the table. "It seems it's just you and me now, Alex," Mom began, tears welling in her eyes before cascading down her cheeks. Through her tears, she continued, "I've decided that you and I are going to embrace life to the fullest, Alex. And if you wish to dress as a girl all the time, then you may. Life is far too short, anything can happen at any moment, just look at us. I no longer care what anyone else thinks, honey. If you desire to live as a girl, then I see no reason why you shouldn't. There's simply no justification for you to deny yourself any longer. The opportunity to fulfill my dream lay right in front of me, waiting to be seized." However, I couldn't shake the feeling that I would be capitalizing on the situation unfairly. I simply told Mom that I needed time to consider it. Caught between what I knew Dad envisioned for me, conflicting with my own inner desires, and after enduring the trauma Mom and I had faced in just a few months, I questioned why I should be the sole family member to pursue what I wanted. Throughout the day, I agonized over my decision. Even though it was a chance I'd been waiting for, all I had to do was say yes. With 2 months until school resumed, I could spend the summer living as a girl, especially since we were new in town and relatively unknown. But it wouldn't be effortless. After much deliberation, nearly 3 days passed before I mustered the courage to join Mom for breakfast as Abby. Mom seamlessly transitioned to using my new name, unfazed by my appearance. Later, she patiently demonstrated basic makeup techniques, foundation, powder, and a subtle lipstick, reminding me that girls my age didn't always wear makeup and cautioned against overdoing it. Clad in worn jeans, sneakers, and a white top adorned with blue flowers, my hair secured by a simple hairband, I ventured outside, feeling a mix of apprehension and excitement. With Kara in jail and Dad in a nursing home, I couldn't shake the feeling of selfishness as I pursued my own desires. Despite this, I couldn't bring myself to revert to my old clothes, I just couldn't. As Mom busied herself cleaning the house, she eventually urged me to go outside, declaring that I was in the way. I had never ventured out alone dressed as a girl, and familiar knots formed in my stomach as I gazed at the door. "I'm not going to allow you to stay indoors for the rest of your life, Abby," Mom asserted. "If you're reluctant to go out as a girl, then change back. But if you do change, how will that benefit you? If you don't take this opportunity now, you may never get another chance. That's not what you want, is it?" Feeling a knot in my stomach, I cast one final glance at Mom, who smiled reassuringly before I turned the doorknob and stepped outside. The fresh air was invigorating, the warmth of the sun embracing me on yet another beautiful summer day. Wandering around the house to the front yard, I surveyed my surroundings, seeing no one in sight, and embarked on a leisurely stroll down the short street. With no one else around, I savored the freedom of embracing my feminine identity. As I reached the end of the street, my attention was drawn to a newly constructed house, where workers bustled about, hammering nails and pouring concrete. Intrigued, I paused to observe their activities, when suddenly, I spotted her emerging from behind a truck. The girl appeared to be around my age, with long, straight brown hair. Spotting me, she waved enthusiastically before darting across the street. "Hi. I'm Sophia. We're going to live in this house once it's finished." "Do you live around here?" she exclaimed. Hi. I'm Abby. I live down the street," I replied hesitantly. "This is so exciting," Sophia exclaimed. "I thought I'd be the only girl on this street. I have to run now, Abby, but we're here every day, so maybe I'll see you again." After giving me a quick hug, Sophia dashed back to where her mother awaited her. I watched them drive away, a lump forming in my throat as I realized that Sophia would likely keep an eye out for me every time she visited, and worse, she would expect to find a girl at my house, not a guy named Alex. Lost in thought as I circled the block, contemplating how I could navigate being both Alex and Abby, I failed to notice my surroundings. That's why I didn't see him. The sound of a bicycle coming to a stop beside me startled me, and I jumped when the front tire slid past me, blocking my path. "Just what I need," he chuckled, "another chick to add to my stable." "I am not," I retorted, "a chick, and I am certainly not going to be a part of your stable. Now, get out of my way. You look pretty hot to me, babe, and you'll change your mind sooner or later. Just ask for Mark, and I'll be right there, ready and willing. Don't hold your breath waiting for me," I shot back, then pushed his bike back and continued walking. Fortunately, he didn't pursue me. By the time I reached home, I was a mess. Not only had I encountered another girl moving into the neighborhood, but I also had to deal with some guy who thought he was God's gift to women. Neither Sophia nor the guy knew my true identity, and I couldn't fathom a way to reveal it without risking harm. When I confided in Mom, all she did was smile and assure me everything would be fine. She seemed unconcerned that everyone assumed I was a girl. Seeking solace, I retreated to my room to cool off and decided to try on all the clothes in my closet. After all, they belonged to me, so why not? Mom suggested, or rather, strongly encouraged, that I start dressing as a girl every day, citing it as excellent practice. She emphasized the importance of mastering my own makeup and hair routines, insisting it was the best way for me to become proficient. With few neighbors and the freedom to do as I pleased, it didn't take much persuasion. From that day forward, I never touched my male clothes, not even a t-shirt. Mom purchased more skirts, tops, jeans, and shoes for me, leaving the choice of attire up to me. However,
I could always tell when I made a poor selection because Mom would give me one of her discerning looks. Just a few days later, there was a knock at the door. Opening it, I found Sophia and her mom standing there. "Hi," Sophia greeted. "This is my mom. We just stopped by so that Mom could meet you and your mom. We're going to be neighbors, and we thought." "Who is it, honey?" Mom inquired. "It's Sophia and her mom," I replied. I ushered them inside, my mind racing with thoughts of how to extricate myself from the situation. The impending return to school in the fall loomed over me, presenting a host of potential complications. I was clad in my shortest skirt, the green and blue one, paired with a thin white pullover top. My hair was styled in a pageboy, adorned with dangling gold earrings. There was no plausible way to dismiss my appearance as a mere prank, especially since this was Sophia's second encounter with me. Our mothers quickly hit it off and retired to converse over coffee, leaving Sophia and me awkwardly standing together, uncertain of what to do next. After a moment of silence, Sophia spoke up. "Are there any boys around here? I haven't seen a single one yet. Maybe this will be an all-girl neighborhood." "There's a guy," I replied, "who fancies himself a gift that every girl is waiting for. His name is Mark. I believe he lives around the block, though I'm not certain where. I doubt you'll like him." "I know I don't." "Then let's go find this guy and teach him some manners," Sophia exclaimed. "Come on, Abby, we'll drive him crazy. It'll be fun." Though I wasn't particularly keen on provoking Mark, Sophia's enthusiasm was palpable. Reluctantly, I opened the door and followed her lead as we set off around the block. "Abby," Mom began to Sophia's mom, "is a special kind of girl. I just wanted you to know that, right up front, Sally." "Special? Is she learning disabled?" Sally inquired. "Not at all. She's my son." As Sophia and I rounded the corner, we spotted him, a tall figure atop his bike, stationed in the middle of the street. With his short spiky blonde hair and a black leather glove adorning his left hand, he grinned upon seeing us and steered his bike in our direction. Despite my hesitation, Sophia marched right up to him. "I hear," she began, "that you think you're hot stuff." He smirked at us, settling back, poised to retort. "But all I see," Sophia continued, "is a blowhard who's probably a bully as well." He rose to his feet, but Sophia interjected, "Stay away from Abby and me, or there will be trouble, and I don't want to hurt you." "You? A little girl like you hurt me," he scoffed. "I doubt that. But you're free to think it. Besides, after you're a part of my stable, you'll calm down. Hell, you might even like it." Sophia remained unfazed, and in a swift movement I barely registered, Mark hit the pavement hard, clutching his shoulder in pain. "Listen, asshole," Sophia asserted, "I've been taking karate lessons since I could walk, and taking you out wouldn't even make me break a sweat. So leave Abby and me alone. Got it?" Without waiting for his response, she strode off, with me trailing behind her, heading for the far side of the block. Back at my house, Sally exclaimed, "Your son. But Abby looks just like your average girl." "She is," Mom affirmed, "just an average girl, Sally, but she's a girl with something extra. She's been dressing up since she was quite young, and after what happened to her father and her sister Cara, we both decided that she shouldn't let anyone but us decide how she should lead her life." "Well, I can see why you feel that way, and I can assure you that Abby will be welcome at our home anytime. I'm not sure how I'll tell Sophia, but I'll find a way. Perhaps we should wait and see what happens. Maybe Abby will tell her on her own." "I agree. We wouldn't want to be caught in the middle, which is probably for the best anyway." I was stunned by how effortlessly Sophia had taken down Mark, considering he outweighed her by at least half, earning my complete admiration and stirring up a newfound fear within me. If she could handle Mark like that, what would happen to me when, inevitably, she discovered my secret? Would I also find myself on the receiving end of her wrath? If I intended to continue dressing as a girl, I realized I needed Sophia as a friend, which meant I had to come clean to her. There was no other choice in my mind. As we reached the next corner and observed some men lifting roof rafters into place with a small crane, I mustered the courage to speak up. Sophia. Yeah. I have something to tell you, and I hope you won't be angry with me when I do. What is it? As the crane shifted the rafter from the pile, I took a deep breath. I'm not a girl, I blurted out quickly, hoping she would both hear and miss it, but she caught every word. She halted, turned to face me, and fixed her gaze upon me. No way. I'd know. Boys can't just become girls. Not and be as cute as you are. I am, I admitted meekly, and I hope you're not upset with me, but with everything that's happened to us, tears welled up, and the floodgates opened. I poured out my heart about Dad, my sister, my feelings, everything. Sophia simply listened, and when I had finished crying, she wrapped her arm around me, offering a comforting embrace. As we made our way back to my house, she spoke again. You're the first girl I've ever felt this close to, Abby, and I don't appreciate boys hitting on me, which is why I was thrilled when we met. I felt like I'd found a kindred spirit. She paused, locking eyes with me. You say you're a girl. I accept that, and I don't care what else might be true, as long as we can remain friends. Besides, how will I ever keep Mark in line without you? We hugged once more before heading back to my house, elated that Sophia had embraced me and thrilled to have found a solid friend just down the street. Sophia didn't pry into the specifics of how I managed things. I'm sure she could infer, but she did invite me to her old house to meet some of her friends. Despite my reservations, I eventually agreed after she insisted. By the time we returned home, the tension had dissipated, and we were back to being a couple of girls again. Once we were alone, Mom and I told Sophia, Mom, I mentioned, leaving out the details of our conversation. I see. It seems she doesn't mind, and it looks like you've found a good friend. I hope so, I replied sincerely. That night, we watched a television report about Kara's boyfriend. She had cooperated with the police, revealing his possible whereabouts. However, when they raided the location, he wasn't there. As they were about to leave, he unexpectedly appeared, leading to a shootout. 2 policemen were injured as Jason attempted to flee using a small machine gun. Despite his attempt, he was ultimately shot multiple times by the police, according to reports. Now, Kara would have to face the legal consequences alone. The fact that Jason had injured more officers wouldn't work in her favor, especially considering her delayed decision to disclose his whereabouts. I glanced at Mom, knowing she shared my concerns, before watching her silently retreat to her bedroom, likely to grieve. With my sister heading to prison, Dad in a nursing home, and an unpleasant neighbor across the street, my life, even with the freedom to dress as a girl, felt somehow insignificant. Everything I had relied on, with the people I cared about, was gone forever. The excitement I used to feel when I dressed as a girl seemed to have dissipated. Mom's tears in her room indicated that our shared sorrow and loss weighed heavily on her, and I felt helpless. While I couldn't change our circumstances, I knew there was one thing I could do, so I went to Mom's room, knocking before entering. Mom's eyes were red, tears streaking her face, the weight of having a daughter in prison bearing down heavily on her. All her aspirations and visions for the future now seemed dimmed by the harsh reality life sometimes presents to good people. The retirement dreams of living a comfortable life with Dad, the anticipation of grandchildren from Kara to dote on, the fantasies of exotic vacations all seemed shattered. There wasn't much left for her now. On top of it all, she had a son who desired to be a daughter, a prospect that, if realized, would mean the end of any hopes for biological grandchildren. In many ways, I felt the urge to shoulder the blame for everything that had occurred, that nagging voice inside me suggesting that if only I didn't enjoy wearing dresses, perhaps none of this would have happened. Deep down, I knew it wasn't true, but the thought persisted nonetheless. Standing in the doorway, uncertain of what to do, I watched as Mom extended her arms, and I rushed into her embrace. Our tears mingled as we held each other tightly, seeking solace in each other's arms, shutting out the rest of the world. I clung to her, my own eyes welling up with tears, unable to find the right words, yet understanding that we held the power to shape whatever future lay ahead of us, to make it our own. We remained in that embrace for what felt like an eternity, until finally, Abby, Mom's voice broke the silence, soft and gentle. With Kara's imprisonment gaining media attention, we may face scrutiny from the press, and I'm not certain if they should. I halted her with a raised hand. Mom, if all they see is Kara's little sister, I don't see why it would be a problem, do you? Kara herself encouraged me to be true to myself, so I trust she won't divulge the truth if asked about me. But your former schoolmates, they know it was just you and Kara, so if any of them were to contact the media, then I'll have to play the role of Kara's supportive sister, won't I? Or, if you prefer, I can and will change back to my old self right now. I enjoy being Abby, but I won't allow it to cause you this much anguish. I stood up and turned to face her. I'll go change immediately, if that's what you want. Abby, you won't revert back. I can't allow it. We made a pact with each other. If you feel ready to face the media as a girl, then I'll support you, but you'll need to be incredibly resilient, especially if they uncover the truth. If they do, you'll need to provide some explanation, or they'll hound you relentlessly. With Kara incarcerated and you embracing your feminine identity, we risk becoming a prime example of a dysfunctional family if we let the media dictate the narrative. Mom paused, then proceeded to the phone. I could only hear her end of the conversation. Can I speak with Richard, please? Thank you. I'll hold, Richard. We need to meet with you urgently, today if possible. It's critical. All right, in 30 minutes, at your office. Perfect, goodbye. That was our attorney, Abby. He'll assist us, and we have an appointment in 30 minutes, so freshen up your makeup and run a comb through your hair. Richard welcomed us, and once we were settled in his office, Mom briefed him on my situation, our concerns regarding media attention in light of Kara's imprisonment, and the potential unwanted scrutiny I might face. Neither Mom nor I wanted me to become the focal point of the story, which was our primary concern. Richard didn't even flinch when Mom disclosed that I was a boy. Instead, he listened attentively to her account before reclining in his chair and addressing us. I concur with your concerns. They're valid, but if Abby were legally recognized, the media would have no grounds for sensationalizing the story, if it were to surface. Currently, she remains legally classified as male, leaving her vulnerable to scrutiny. Therefore, our priority should be to establish Abby's legal identity. Richard retrieved some documents from his desk. These are name change forms. By completing them, we can establish her legal identity, and perhaps even amend her birth certificate. If I present the case to the right judge, leveraging a favor owed to me, I can make that happen. Subsequently, the media would be compelled to acknowledge her as she presents herself. The advantage is that the school system would be obliged to recognize her as a female. However, the downside is that she would be expected to participate in all courses appropriate for a girl her age. If you're in agreement, I can submit the paperwork on Monday morning. Mom looked at me, awaiting my consent. I simply nodded, and Mom instructed him to proceed. As Mom completed the paperwork, she designated my new name as Abby Elaine, and both Mom and I signed it. Richard shook our hands, assuring us that he would handle everything. He advised Mom that any inquiries about either Kara or myself should be directed to him, and he cautioned us against speaking to the press. The moment I signed those documents, I realized that I had sealed my fate. I would transition to living as a girl, regardless of my readiness, and irrespective of my proficiency in it. From that point forward, I would no longer don boys' attire, and my name would be Abby. On the journey home, Mom suggested that I might enjoy visiting a beauty salon to have my hair cut and styled. I expressed my interest, intrigued by the prospect of experiencing a beauty salon for the first time, and pondering what transformations awaited me there. 2 days later, Kara was indicted for trial on charges of killing the guard, resisting arrest, and obstructing justice due to her delayed disclosure of her boyfriend's whereabouts, which resulted in the shooting of 2 more police officers. Following her attorney's counsel, we refrained from attending the initial proceedings of the trial. However, it was widely understood that the trial would be brief, prompting Mom to take me to the beauty salon. I invited Laura to join us, and she came accompanied by her mother. Laura and I spent considerable time perusing hairstyle options for me, ultimately selecting one that was moderately short and appeared charming on the model. Every aspect of the beauty salon fascinated me, from the scents to the demeanor of everyone present, but I followed the lead of the stylist as she directed me to a chair. After showing her the chosen picture, she concurred that it would complement my appearance and proceeded to shampoo my hair. I remained seated in that chair for nearly an hour as the stylist cut, trimmed, and styled my hair. Simultaneously, another individual approached to file and apply clear polish to my nails. When I gazed into the mirror afterward, I saw a completely transformed person staring back at me. The hairstyle framing my face imparted a distinctly feminine allure, evoking a sense of elation within me. Upon leaving the salon, Mom escorted me to a store where I was fitted with silicone forms, designed to adhere to the skin and match my complexion. Though small, they provided a feeling of wholeness, their weight causing a slight pull on my chest as I walked, necessitating occasional adjustments to my bra straps, with Mom's assistance, of course. The following morning, Mom and I rose early, and I meticulously dressed in a suit, opting for the pale burgundy one. I ensured my hair was flawlessly styled, taking extra care with my makeup. The skirt's hem fell at mid-thigh, which Mom assured me was appropriate for my age. I adorned pearl earrings and a matching necklace, paired with low black heels and a soft pink blouse. Mom donned her navy suit, looking equally impeccable. The previous night, we jointly agreed that it was imperative for us to attend Kara's court appearance, and once that decision was made, I felt a profound sense of relief. Despite the potential consequences of appearing in court as a girl, I was resolute in not allowing anyone to dictate the course of my life, and fortunately, Mom shared this sentiment. We also planned to visit Dad. Although we doubted his comprehension, it would mark his first time seeing me as a girl. Anticipating a tumultuous day ahead, I braced myself, knowing that overcoming it would pave the way for a return to normalcy. Upon entering the courtroom, we were ushered by the bailiff to seats near the front. The scent of polish on the finely crafted wood did little to alleviate the palpable tension. Across from us sat the families of the wounded and deceased officers, their eyes filled with resolute animosity. Kara was escorted into the room in restraints, clad in a tasteful grey suit paired with a yellow blouse, her hair neatly brushed and a hint of makeup accentuating her features. Though her eyes appeared weary, likely from incessant tears, she walked in with a composed posture. A murmur rippled through the room as Kara entered, only to fall silent as the judge made his entrance. With a sharp rap of the gavel, the trial commenced. The evidence presented during the trial was compelling, leaving little room for rebuttal. Even the district attorney conceded that while it was plausible Kara didn't personally shoot the guard, her presence during the felony resulting in a death rendered her culpable for murder. Despite the defense's valiant efforts to present an elaborate explanation, their case faltered. The trial itself was remarkably brief, with the facts laid out plainly. The jury deliberated for merely an hour. As I listened to the detailed accounts of my sister's crime, a sense of inevitability settled over me. Despite the press's attempt to approach us during the recess, our lawyer intervened, sparing me from having to utter a single word while Mom quietly shed tears. Surprisingly, the issue of my attire never arose. When the trial resumed and the jury returned with their verdict, it felt almost anticlimactic. Kara was pronounced guilty of the policeman's death. Recognizing the general disbelief surrounding her direct involvement in the shooting, the judge handed down a sentence of 35 years to life in prison, holding out the possibility of parole after 25 years with good behavior. Kara would be 44 by then, having spent more than half her life behind bars. Mom and I were escorted out of the courtroom, only to be led to the judge's chambers. Once inside his office, the rich aroma of lemon and cigars mingled with the dark wood surroundings. "I offer my sincere condolences to you, madam." Kara seemed like a decent girl who fell in with the wrong crowd. Unfortunately, I had little choice but to impose a lengthy sentence, the judge expressed, gesturing towards a side door. "You have half an hour, then I would like to speak with your other daughter, if I may." Cara sat at a table, her hands unshackled, though the ankle restraints remained. Mom and I embraced her tightly, and I caught a glimpse of a smile from Cara. "You look absolutely adorable, little sister," I murmured, enveloping her in another hug, my tears flowing for her plight, not mine. The mere thought of spending 25 years confined to a drab cell measuring 7 by 12 feet was unfathomable to me. "Promise me, Abby, promise me you'll never change, and always listen to Mom." I didn't, and look where it landed me, a one-way ticket to the depths of hell. I remained with Cara for the majority of our visit, then proceeded to meet with the judge, leaving Mom and Cara to converse privately. Seated beside him, the judge presented me with the name change papers. "Is this truly what you desire, considering your young age?" he inquired in his deep baritone. "I've been expressing myself this way since I was very young, Your Honor," I replied, recounting the events that had befallen our family and the conclusion Mom and I had reached. The reasons behind our decision were self-evident. The judge attentively listened, seeking reassurance once more of my commitment to changing my name. Upon receiving my affirmative nod, he affixed his signature to the documents. Mom entered the room at that moment, and the judge handed her a copy of the name change decree. In one swift day, he had dismantled and then, with a stroke of his pen, revitalized our family. After shaking our hands, he offered me his card, assuring me of his availability for any future discussions about any topic. As Mom and I departed his chambers, my name was officially Abby. Stepping out of the courthouse, we spotted Laura and her mother waiting for us. While part of me yearned to announce my newfound identity, the weight of Cara's conviction tempered my enthusiasm, so I confided in Laura instead of making a public declaration. Naturally, she was overjoyed and embraced me warmly. It was then that Mom suggested we grab dinner. During dinner, Mom allowed me to inform Laura's mother about the judge's decision to change my name, eliciting smiles from her. Laura was ecstatic about my taking this significant step, as it signaled to her that I would always be there for her as a girl. She understood what I had only begun to realize. When school resumed in the fall, all the kids in my class would be 15, the age when boys typically start asking girls out, asserting their interest while the girls, myself included, either accept or reject them. It was the timeless teenage ritual of courtship. As a newly minted girl, I had never competed for someone's attention, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to. Our mothers escorted us home, and that night, as I undressed, I contemplated how to conceal my masculinity. Until then, I had always discreetly tucked myself away, but attending school as a girl meant adhering to their expectations, which meant keeping Mr. Happy out of sight at all times. Various methods crossed my mind for hiding him. Tape seemed an option, though it could be painful, wash off, or be visible. I was clueless about how to conceal my modest manhood, but I knew it had to be done. The next day, while encountering Mark, the neighborhood bully, I brushed off his taunts and made my way to Laura's new house. The construction was underway, with workers busy installing drywall, painting, laying tiles, and fitting kitchen cabinets. Later, I strolled down to the local drugstore. Although my first visit had filled me with terror, this time I entered confidently, heading straight for the cosmetics aisle. I perused the products before heading home, still grappling with the question of how to solve my dilemma. Makeup wouldn't address the issue, it was merely a distraction. By the time I arrived home, I remained no closer to finding a solution. When Mom got home, I mentioned it to her in as delicate a way as possible. To my great surprise, she had also been thinking about it, and had come up with an idea. When she told me, I was at first skeptical, then shaky about letting her try it, but in the end, I agreed, and she made a quick run to the drugstore, the same one I had visited earlier. When she returned, she and I went to my room, a very full ice bag in one of her hands, a small plastic bag in the other. Showing myself to my mother wasn't very high on my list of things to do, but I needed her help, and did what she told me. I undressed from the waist down, sat on the edge of the bed and lay back, holding my legs up in the air. When the ice bag hit me, I shuddered from the coldness of it, but when Mom made me hold it there, I felt like a contortionist that was into embarrassing, painful experiments. I held it there for what seemed like forever. Then, when Mom was ready, she removed it and began to manipulate my parts. I couldn't see what she was doing, and while there wasn't much pain, I ached just from the thought of what she was doing. Mom had explained it all to me before we started, but that did not make it any easier. Only my desire to look like all of the other girls made it bearable. It seemed like hours, but within a short time, Mom said she was done, and with a smile on her face, she helped me stand up. I looked just like a girl. Abby, before you get too excited, we need to ensure that everything's working fine, so go ahead and try using the bathroom. Let me know if there are any issues, alright? Sure, Mom, I'll give it a try. I'll confess it felt a bit odd, but everything functioned as expected. With a grin on my face, I slipped on my panties after confirming. Mom stepped out of the room, and I finished getting dressed. Laura and her mother moved in a month later, and by then, I had grown used to not having Mr. Happy between my legs, and I had started to try on shorts, tighter jeans, and even a swimsuit. If I was careful with my hip padding, there wasn't any sign that I wasn't a real girl, which really made me feel more feminine than I ever had before. Laura and I began to stay together more and more often, the sight of her bare body no longer a thrill, especially after the first time she saw me standing in her room, wearing nothing. With my groin now like hers, and my chest forms glued on, the only difference was my lack of hips. From that day on, I never worried about passing in school. Mom and I had selected a new wardrobe for me, mostly skirts and blouses, tops and jeans, but also a few dresses, sweaters, and shoes. We saw Dad every weekend, without the slightest sign of recognition in his eyes. Mom always left with tears in her eyes, because she knew that Dad would never return home. Kara was transferred to a distant prison in another state due to overcrowding, and it would be more than a year before I could see her again. My complete transition occurred after I turned 18, but by then, mentally, I was fully a girl in every sense. During my first year at the new school, I began dating Wally, a tall, blonde man who weighed at least 240 pounds. Next to him, I felt diminutive, but he was kind and I cherished our time together. Mom found companionship with someone who alleviated her loneliness, and for the first time in years, her eyes sparkled with light. When this journey began, it was merely a distant hope that one day I could live as a girl. And now, here I am, living that reality, embracing my femininity, allowing Wally to get close to me, albeit tentatively. It was a brief moment of vulnerability, but it taught me invaluable lessons about womanhood. After my graduation, Mom remarried, and I pursued nursing school, while Laura unexpectedly married Mark. During my first year of college, Dad passed away, while Kara seemed to age at least a decade. Life can be challenging, but if you persist in pursuing your dreams, eventually, you'll triumph. And I did.